It is easy to imagine an empire at its loudest moment. Crowds cheering, armies marching, trumpets echoing across stone walls. But that is not this moment. This moment is quieter. The empire, at its height, does not need to prove anything anymore. It does not rush. It does not shout. It simply exists, like a mountain that has been there so long, no one remembers when it first rose. Morning comes slowly across the land. In the capital, the sun slides over wide streets paved with smooth stone, the kind of stone that has been walked on for generations. Not cracked, not broken, just worn in the way things get when they are used often, but never abused. Shops open their shutters. A baker pulls bread from an oven that has probably been in the same place longer than his family name. The smell drifts into the street. Familiar. No surprises. A few doors down, a merchant arranges goods on a table. Fabrics from far regions. Spices that traveled weeks, maybe months, to get here. He doesn't rush. He knows people will come. They always do. There is a rhythm to everything. Carts roll by at an unhurried pace. Horses know the roads so well they barely need guidance. Even the stray dogs seem calm, like they too trust that food will appear eventually. No one is in a panic. No one is in a hurry. And that might be the first strange thing. Because when everything works perfectly, people stop thinking about it. They stop noticing the systems holding it all together. Water flows through channels beneath the streets. Clean, steady, reliable. Most people never think about where it comes from, or what would happen if it stopped. Why would they? It has never stopped. Not in their lifetime. Not in their parents' lifetime either. In the center of the city, government buildings rise with quiet confidence. Tall columns, wide steps, guards posted but relaxed. Not lazy, just comfortable. Inside, officials read reports, stamp documents, and discuss matters that seem important but rarely urgent. There are always decisions to make, always small problems to solve. But nothing feels like a crisis. Not today, not yesterday, not for a long time. Out beyond the capital, the empire stretches farther than most people will ever travel. Fields roll out in long, steady lines. Farmers move through them with practiced ease. They know the seasons. They know the soil. The harvest comes when it should. It usually does. Taxes are collected, of course. They always are. But they are predictable. Expected. Just another part of life. A farmer might complain a little, because farmers always complain a little, but he still pays. Because the system works. Because it always has. Roads connect everything. Long, straight roads that cut through forests, hills, and open land. Built years ago. Maintained just enough to stay useful. Messengers travel them. Traders use them. Soldiers march on them when needed. Which, lately, is not very often. Because the empire is at peace. Or at least something close to it. There are small conflicts, of course. There always are. A border dispute here. A disagreement there. But nothing large enough to shake the foundation. Nothing that makes people worry when they go to sleep. In distant towns, life feels even slower. A blacksmith hammers metal in a steady rhythm. A child watches, half curious, half bored. The same way children have watched for generations. In a small market, people trade goods and stories. News travels, but slowly, and by the time it arrives, it often feels less urgent. There is comfort in that. A kind of distance from trouble. Even the soldiers, stationed along the edges of the empire, live in a strange calm. They train, they patrol, they wait, but mostly they wait. Some of them have never seen real battle. Not the kind their grandparents talk about. Not the kind that decides the fate of nations. They still wear armor, still carry weapons, but there is a quiet understanding among them. Things are stable. Things are under control. At least, that is how it feels. Back in the capital, the day moves forward without surprises. People talk about ordinary things. Prices, weather, family. No one is whispering about collapse. No one is predicting disaster. If anything, the biggest concern might be whether the bread is slightly overbaked today. which, to be fair, is a serious issue if you care deeply about bread. As the sun begins to lower, the city softens. Shadows stretch across the streets. Lamps are lit one by one. A quiet glow replaces the daylight. Dinner is prepared. Doors close. Conversations fade into the background. The empire does not sleep all at once. It settles, slowly, like it always does. And as night takes hold, there is a sense, almost invisible but deeply felt, that this will all continue tomorrow. The same roads, the same markets, the same routines. There is no reason to think otherwise. After all, when something has worked for so long, it begins to feel permanent, unshakable, almost natural, like it could never really change. But here is the quiet truth. This is the moment when an empire is most fragile. Not when it is weak, not when it is under attack, but when it is strong and no one is paying close attention. Because stability has a strange effect on people. It makes them comfortable. And comfort over time can make small problems easy to ignore. A delay here, a mistake there, a decision that is not quite right, but not quite wrong either. Nothing serious, nothing urgent, just small things, the kind of things that don't matter, until they do. But tonight, none of that is visible. Tonight, the empire rests, confident, quiet, certain that tomorrow will look just like today, and in which it will. At least for now. The next morning arrives the same way it always does. Soft light over stone, the slow opening of shutters, the quiet confidence of routine. If you were standing in the capital, you would not notice anything different. Not at first. The baker still wakes early. The oven still warms the room. Bread still comes out golden and steady. Maybe one loaf is slightly uneven, but that happens sometimes. No one thinks much of it. The merchant sets up his stall again. The same fabrics, the same spices. Though, if he is being honest, one shipment arrived a little late this week. Not very late. Just enough for him to notice. He shrugs it off. Caravans get delayed. Roads get crowded. Weather changes. These things happen. And besides, the goods arrived in the end. That is what matters. Across the city, a clerk sits at a wooden desk, flipping through documents. There are more of them than usual today. Or maybe it just feels that way. A few reports are missing signatures. A few requests are still waiting for approval. He stacks them neatly, telling himself he will get to them soon. He always does. Just not today. Because today, there are other things to handle. Nothing urgent. Just things. And that is how it begins. Not with a loud mistake. Not with a sudden failure. But with a quiet delay. In another part of the city, a small repair crew examines a section of road. There is a crack. Not a large one. Not enough to stop traffic. Carts still roll over it without much trouble. But it wasn't there before. One of the workers points it out. It should be fixed, he says. The others nod. It probably should be. They make a note of it. Then they move on. Because there are bigger repairs to handle elsewhere. At least, that is what they tell themselves. The crack will still be there tomorrow. And the day after that. Out in the countryside, the changes are even harder to notice. A farmer walks his field just like he always does. The crops look fine. The soil feels the same. But the irrigation channel is slower than usual. Water still flows. Just not as strongly. He pauses for a moment watching it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just the season. He adjusts a small barrier, guiding the water where it needs to go. It works well enough. Good enough, he decides. And that phrase, good enough, starts to appear more often. In the borderlands, a messenger arrives later than expected. Not by days. Just by hours. The guards don't seem concerned. They joke about it even. Got lost, one of them asks. The messenger shakes his head. The roads were fine. Just slower. More traffic. A few delays along the way. Nothing serious. The message is delivered. The system works. That is what matters. Inside the military outposts, reports are written and sent back toward the capital. Some mention small movements beyond the borders. Nothing threatening. Just unusual. A few more travelers than normal. A few unfamiliar groups passing through. The kind of thing that might be worth watching. The kind of thing that gets written down and then filed away. Back in the capital, those reports arrive. Eventually, they are read, not ignored, just not prioritized. Because there are many reports, and most of them sound the same. Nothing urgent, nothing that demands immediate action. So they wait. In the markets, prices shift ever so slightly. A handful of goods cost a little more than they did last month. Not enough to cause alarm, but enough for people to notice. A woman pauses at a stall, holding a coin a little longer before handing it over. "Wasn't it cheaper before?" she asks. The merchant nods slowly. "Just a little." She sighs, but she still buys it. Because what choice does she have? Life continues. That is the strange part. Everything continues. Children still play in the streets. Laughter still echoes between buildings. People still gather in the evenings, talking about ordinary things. The cracks are there, but they are small, easy to step over, easy to ignore. And most people do, because noticing them would mean asking questions. And asking questions might lead to answers no one is ready for. So instead, they focus on what still works, which is almost everything. In the government halls, a meeting takes place. Officials sit around a large table, discussing minor issues. Supply delays, small budget concerns, administrative backlogs. They speak calmly. They always do. One of them mentions the growing number of unresolved requests. Another brings up the slowing response times in certain regions. There is a pause. Not a long one, just enough for the room to feel slightly heavier. Then someone clears their throat. "It will be handled," they say, and everyone nods, because that is what they believe. It has always been handled. Why would this be any different? The meeting moves on. Decisions are made, or at least decisions are scheduled to be made later, which for now feels like the same thing. As evening falls again, the city returns to its quiet rhythm. Lamps are lit, doors close. The empire settles into another night. And if you were walking through the streets, you would still feel it. That sense of stability, that quiet confidence. It is still there, just slightly thinner than before, but not enough to worry about. Not yet, because nothing has truly gone wrong. There has been no disaster, no sudden collapse, no moment that changes everything. Only small things. A delay, a hesitation, the kind of things that don't make history books, the kind of things people forget. But they are there, quietly, patiently, and over time, they begin to add up. Not all at once, not in a way that anyone can point to and say, that is the problem, but in a way that slowly changes how everything feels, even if no one can explain why. For now, though, the empire still stands, stable, mostly unchanged, and tomorrow will look very much like today, just with one or two more things, slightly out of place.